Thank you. 6.0 reconvene open session procedural business 5:30 p.m. 6.1 call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:38 p.m. 6.2 roll call. The trustees are to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dr. Natalie Lindemann, trustee area 4.
Dr. Phil Mellinger, trustee area 1.
Dan Ridley, trustee area 2. Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3.
Jordan Zaraki, trustee area 5, Running Springs, Arrowhead Lake, Green Valley Lake.
All are in attendance and we have established quorum. 6.3 Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Zachary Lawrence.
All right, please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
7.0 closed session report. 7.1 announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. None.
None.
8.0 public testimony. 8.1 we're moving public comments at first. Sorry, I informed you. 8.1 public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. Public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point of the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in a dialogue or answer questions. Though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period, the board, for example, may refer any matter to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on future agenda items. Protocols for speakers. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction must complete a green speakers form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints against board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to those complaints by using the Room of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure board policy number 1312.1 has been followed and has reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. To report, the governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 29323 and Government Code Section 54957.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer any privilege or protection for their expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. 8.2 public comment period. I have one reading form from Michael Glasser, and he is representing Senator Ochoa Boa. And this is in regards to presenting your recognition to Superintendent Ms. Michelle Murphy.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here, and on behalf of Senator Ochoa, who is the California State Senator over District 23, which we're located, I'm here to present you with a certificate of recognition. Over 30 years of dedicated service to the public, to learning, commitment to achieving wonderful results in many communities, not just in this community. And we just wanted to let you know that that is very commendable and is recognized. So thank you very much. And on behalf of Senator Ochoa of District 23, we have this wonderful certificate for you.
Thank you, Bill.
Close up.
And we have sentence.
Just Photoshop now.
We'll put the senator in there.
With the time.
I appreciate it. It's gonna be the bossy one. We can turn around so we could
So we have to just right here.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And now we're in the.
It also says.
No, no. Sometimes I'm. Thank you.
Thank the senator.
Yes, much
Thank the
appreciated.
senator for us two plates.
8.3, RTA and CSEA representatives. None are present. We are going to skip over to 10.1, which is acknowledgement and award presentation to the RIM district retirees. Personnel Services will be honoring our certificated, classified, and management employees retiring in the 2021-2022 school year for their dedication and years of service to the district. We're going to take a short recess during this time to honor those who are retiring. Yay!
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll recess. We have a few with us tonight, and we're very excited to do that. Patricia Cervantes for 21 years with our district. Dean for 10 years. Mr. Bart Bear for 34 years. Mr. Scott Kraft with 28 years. Ms. Lucinda Kearney with 17 years with the Reserve. Jacqueline Dixon Smith with 34 years. Noelle Ladd with 30 years. Kathy Horton with 34 years. Picture, sorry. Afterwards, we'll take a picture with the whole group. Ms. Pam Struggle with 25 years. Ms. Sandra Engel with 23 years. If I give it, does it make it official? Mr. James Olson with 22 years. Yeah. This is Michelle Murphy with 5 years. So now we take me.
Yes.
Yeah, please join us for having some cake. We're gonna take a break until 6 o'clock.
Jimmy, Kathy, can we do another picture?
Thank you and congratulations again to all those retirees. 9.0, governing board members, reports and announcements. 9.1, governing board members. Jordan, would you like to begin?
Good evening. I don't have much to report on this week. I had it's been a very busy week. I had a tough month or so. I got the flu and then I got COVID right after that, back to back. So that took me out for a long time. I'm looking forward to next year, next school year, and all the fun things that we get to do. A big party congratulations to all of our high graduates, all of our high graduates, all of our retirees. It's been an adventurous time, I'm sure, during the time of the pandemic and everything else going on in this world. So definitely a hearty congratulations and wish everyone the best in their next endeavors. I will be returning back to the farmers market every Saturday going forward, with the exception of tomorrow. So you can see me there to talk about anything school district related, anything community related. I'm always happy to discuss. There's plenty of exciting things going on, particularly around the state budget as it relates to public education funding. There's a lot of advocacy work that is needed. I'm glad that Senator Ochoa's office was here today and showed a presence here in this district because we are currently, I know some of us board members are in conversations with the Senator's office about advocacy around the state budget, again, as it relates to public education funding. So we'll keep that advocacy effort up. And again, I'll be around. If you don't see me at the farmers market in Running Springs on Saturdays, you can feel free to email me and we can set up a meeting, a phone call. Thank you.
Billy, would you like to go next?
So yeah, it's going to probably be somewhat redundant for each one of us. So congratulations to the graduates. Zach, it was a pleasure to have your presentation yesterday, and congratulations on the work that you've done throughout your entire career and what you've done here on the board. So thank you. To our retarees, we're proud of you. We appreciate you. You've really blessed us, and so thank you for the way you served in this district. I had the privilege of attending each of our graduations, and that was special. I've also enjoyed our band, our choir, our theater, our artwork, the reception there. I mean, there's just some really incredible talent here on this mountain that is in the school, will continue in the school, and has graduated last night and last week from the school district. So we just got some tremendous people and students on this mountain, and it's been a privilege to see their work this year, and especially this last couple of weeks. So thank you.
Jordana?
As Bill mentioned, I feel like there's going to be a lot of redundancy here. I make sure I speak into the microphone. A lot of chapters ending in terms of graduations, retirements, and it's sad for me to see some folks that I absolutely adore moving on, but I'm very happy for them and very grateful for the contributions that Zach, Mr. Olson, Mrs. Gordon, and just a ton of individuals have contributed to our RIM community. And I'm very excited for the graduates. I was great at Mountain High hearing about students who are already participating in college programs. And I know that our graduates that were on the field yesterday have got a wonderful future ahead. So gratifying to be at graduation that was in person, together, and energetic and joyful. I'm excited to go to my son's graduation this Sunday. He'll be graduating from getting his bachelor's. And again, very grateful for having had my older child where we were not able to do in-person graduation. I don't take it for granted anymore. And so I appreciate that where we are in society now, that we are able to get together and celebrate. And I think it's incredibly important moving forward that we take the opportunity to celebrate every opportunity we can. So just love this community and looking forward to a new school year in the fall with a fresh start, hopefully without masks, hopefully without COVID tests, hopefully with a lot of help and a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy?
Yeah, a lot of redundancy. All right, so the graduations were so awesome. The energy, the excitement, seeing all the kids go through the stage. Some of them I've known since they were little itty bitties, and it's just amazing to see how they've grown and they turned out, and they're so excited for their next chapter, their next adventure. And I'm excited because when they come back for breaks or whatever, it's really neat to hook up, to see them at Starbucks and say, what are you doing? What's going on with your life? So Zach, you have to keep in touch, okay? Because just so excited for you, especially you're going to UCI, where my own kid went to for my local school, so I'm super excited for you. Not sure about Zach, that just is a weird thing, but that's okay, that's okay. I know, I did buy a Christmas ornament, so every Christmas the Zach is on my Christmas tree, because I just think it's funny. Okay, tangent. Okay, so I volunteered for the VOE color run, and their carnival was really fun, and Mr. Hamilton got a pie in the face by the child who raised the most money. I thought that was pretty darn funny. It's all I see, it's about entertaining me apparently. So I went to LAE and then MPH for the senior walk. It was really nice. MPH, thank you for hosting the lunch and giving kids otter pops and bracelets. That was really, really, really sweet. And I know that the seniors like them. I saw the bracelets on some of their wrists at graduation. So that was really nice. Went to the drama show for a little bit. Very fun to see alumni as well as seniors do their thing. Then we had, of course, the band and the choir concerts, which were lovely. Like I said before, that jazz band is pretty astonishing. Yeah, the budget, the legislative budget came out, their version, the Assembly and the Senate version. And it is different from the governor's May revised budget. Two things of huge concern is the fact that even though the legislative budget says, hey, we're gonna do a 3-year rolling average, there is no current relief for the decline in EVA we experienced this year because of COVID. So there's no COVID fix for this year, so to speak. The other one is the transportation formula that they provided in the budget. Unfortunately, it has a bunch of mandates that are underfunded, and we would have to pay more out of general fund, which is unfortunate with their formula and their mandates that they've specified. So hopefully in this one, we're hoping that the O'Donnell Transportation Bill 2933, which is just fully fund your expenses for transportation, no mandates, here's the money and have at it. We're hoping that one, it did move out of the Assembly, it's at the Senate, and we're hoping that that passes and is signed, because that's the bill that we really, really want, and I think most of us would prefer. So those are the only two big, huge legislative pieces. But in terms of graduation, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a burn, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm so happy and proud of our students in Mountain High School and Rim High School. They really did survive 2 years of their life turning upside down, and the way that they overcame those obstacles and celebrated in the PAC and celebrated on the field. It just made your heart warm because you realize these kids are resilient and they're going to go on to do amazing things in their lives, despite the 2 years that were pretty much squashing their life. So just congratulations.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I was going to use the same term, like this was a not only like survival year, but towards the end it felt like it was a bounce back year, and that we were getting back into the groove of things being a bit more normal. I look forward to next year and it hopefully being a steady climb upwards in stability for all of us, and again that new sense of normalcy. Graduation was wonderful. I always love graduation, but this year a lot of students who I'm very close to and have known for a long time, and it was very special. Zach, you did a wonderful job, and it was great to see that. I had a terrible moment 2 days ago when my son came into the bedroom and said, "Okay, bye, Mom, it's my last day at LAE." And I was like, "It's your last day at LAE." It like didn't sink into till that moment that it was his last day at LAE. And I just kind of think of all of the things and opportunities that my family have had there, you know, a lot of connection, a lot of opportunities, and growth for our family and for my little ones there. So it's super sad that I have a little boy who's just my little boy going on to middle school next year, but I'm sure he will be well taken care of there too and find his place and his voice there. And I look forward to summer. I look forward to us all reconnecting as like family and friends and getting to relax and be out at the lake and enjoy some time before we have to get back in gear for next year. So I hope everyone just enjoys time with their family, with their loved ones, and takes a little break to recuperate. So we're refreshed to go at it again. Thank you all for all your hard work. Congratulations to all of us for making it through this year. 9.2, Superintendent Report, Mrs. Murphy.
I too attended all of those same events. I did want to thank high school administration at both schools and the transportation department for their work yesterday and getting all of the folks to the graduation. You know, that was a tremendous effort as people were yelling on the highway that I was getting a parking spot. So there we go. I appreciate my parking spot. So, but thank you for the wonderful job that we did for our kids, and so proud of our kids. Thank you to our retirees. I encourage everyone to use summer as a reset. Our management team will have a retreat on Monday. We're studying with a consultant. It's called Life by Design, and it's all about work-life balance. And I think that's very difficult for teachers to do, for administrators to do, for classified staff to do. So we're going to start with top, and hopefully it'll trickle down to faculty about making sure that you have that work-life balance and self-care. I've been preaching that a lot in my goodbye letters, and so I encourage that to happen. So looking forward to that time with our administrators on Monday. I wanted to thank the seniors that went to BOE as they allowed me to lead the parade this year through BOE campus. That was very touching. The kids love seeing their names up on the walls at BOE. Senior parade is one of my favorite traditions besides senior interviews in December. So I think that's a really special thing that RIM gets to do. So other than that, I think that I would like to take a moment to recognize Zach. I thank you so much for all the work you've given to the board and how serious you've taken your position, and that you've changed the way that we look at the way students present to us and allowing student voice into those presentations. And I know you got a little scholarship from the board for serving as our student board rep, but I got you something too. So I just wanted to thank you for all your dedication to the school and wish you the best of luck.
We can do a picture. Nine point 3 student representative report. Zachary Lawrence, Room of the World High School. Continue to make your mom cry.
'We did it. We made it. We're here. The year is over. Like I said earlier, this is a chapter is closing for many of us. Many students are moving from grade to grade, school to school within the district. And then students like myself moving from the district onto higher education. I'm really excited. I loved being a student here since 7th grade. I love our community. I love our teachers. I love our administration. I just absolutely love attending school here. and I will cherish the time that I've had here. And I still got plenty of siblings here, so I'll be hearing about it for a while. Before I get going, I did just want to reiterate from yesterday, a big thank you to our Ren High administration. We have Ms. Tori Burke and Ms. Stephanie Phillips here. They were fun. Oh, I'm sorry, and Mr. Mickelson in the back. I didn't see you back there. They were all so fundamental into putting on that ceremony yesterday. It was so incredible. And I mean, I hadn't had to do a COVID graduation, but it was absolutely perfect yesterday. And we all loved it. The class loved it. Parents loved it. It was just incredible. So again, a huge thank you to you guys for putting that on yesterday. And then now you're going to hear about yesterday. It definitely is. Graduation. So here's just a few numbers that I had for graduation. We had 208 seniors that walked in graduation yesterday. That is 97% graduation rate for RIM. That is well above the state average. And it was quite the turnout, a little bit nerve-wracking, but we did have over 2,000 friends, family, parents, guardians, grandparents in attendance yesterday. It was super full. It was super awesome to see everyone out there gathered together to celebrate with all of us. And then I just have a few highlights in here, some pictures you guys may not have seen yet. So we had the senior class cabinet that led the turning of the tassels at the end of graduation. We had our president, Ashlyn Orozco, vice president, Sophia Williams, our secretary, Eileen Fudor, and our treasurer, Devin Curran. And before the ceremony began, we did have 4 graduates that had to attend an EMT class immediately after graduation, and they were acknowledged by County Superintendent, Mr. Ted Alejandre, for their commitment to their schoolwork and for representing the community and the county on a much larger scale. And they are in the corner up there. We have Javier Carrillo, Raimundo Barron, and then Mr. Ted Alejandre in the middle, Clayton Lukavish, and Darby Free. And then this last picture here is just the best part. We were tossing our caps at the end of the ceremony, and I just threw in a little quote from Miss Burke. Okay, you can do it. And then, not to toot my own horn, but this is myself, the class salutatorian, and then our class valedictorian, James Crate. As you can tell, we're really close. We've been friends since 7th grade. We've known each other much longer. So it was really exciting for both of us to get up there and get to speak on behalf of the class, to everyone in attendance. It was really special. And then I just thought I'd throw in some pictures. I crowdsourced, got them from friends, from staff, Instagram, Facebook, all around. These are just some of the hundreds of pictures that I saw from immediately after the ceremony and at graduation parties after the ceremony and in the PAC when we were all getting ready for the ceremony. It was an incredible day for everyone. Not a single person didn't have a smile on their face. We were all so excited. It was really hot, but we were all really excited. It was such a lovely day yesterday. And as you can see, there's a lot of smiling faces from the class of 2022. We're done. Like I told you guys before, I will try and stick around a little bit during the summer. Just in case that doesn't work out though, the ASB cabinet has selected someone to fill my position for next year. Her name is Michelle Hilgera. I met with her on Monday. I kind of just gave her the rundown of the position, gave her some contact information for the work I'm doing on things like wellness campaign with 2B. She can't be here tonight. She is watching from home though. So
Hi, Michelle.
She is getting a little taste of what these meetings are gonna be like. So it's been a pleasure to work with you guys. If I'm not able to make it back, just wanted to say thank you. And again, it's been a pleasure to work with you all. If I do make it back, I'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. So Zach's report, that last part, Michelle taking the baton, CSBA does have student board member training in August, so if we could reach out to Michelle and see if she would like to do that, that would be awesome, so that we can kind of elevate what Zach laid as the foundation for student advocacy and student voice. That would be great.
I'll send her an email.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Zach.
Alright, so 10.0, reports and presentations, we already did 10.1, so we will move to 10.2, finance and facilities, presentation of the current working budget and proposed 2022-2023 budget and enrollment report. Jenny Haberlin, Chief Business Official.
Look at all that stack of paper.
Well, I thought there'd be a bigger crowd, so of course, when you make us a lot of extra copies, then you don't need them. When you don't make them, you need them. So there you go. There'll be plenty of budget reports to go around.
I'll take some of the fun now.
Okay. So as you know, over here, I'm gonna make sure this is on. Yep. We are proposing, we are presenting the proposed budget today. And prior to the budget hearing, the actual proposed budget will be on a board agenda at the last meeting in June to have formally adopt the budget and approve it. But this is a step that was fairly new with LCFF, having a budget hearing at a meeting prior to the meeting that you adopt the budget, and with that, it's with the LCAP as well. Used to be, we were able to have a budget hearing the same day as the budget adoption. So we would open the hearing, have a hearing, and then have a budget adopt. Now we have to have two separate meetings. It's the two meetings in June. So between now and the budget, in the state SAPS format, has been at the district office since Monday, open for public inspection. That was published twice in 2 of our papers, and it's also been it's up front. It's also been online. It was part of the posted agenda as well. So I believe you have a copy that I shared in addition to that. So the PowerPoint that I supplied for you today, it's 40 pages. Okay, so I am not going to go page by page by page. There's a couple of pages that are important for us to pay attention to and to discuss. And then there's some just for information. I think with the advocacy work that you already know that's pending, and reading of course, the May revised, and then the 2 versions of the budget that's coming out of Sacramento. There's not a lot that you don't already know, but we will definitely be anxious for some of those negotiations with the governor, because even the one-time money that's in the May revised, it's unrestricted in the May revised, but in the it's very restrictive and with the legislature. So there's some things that we are in the habit of course, having to amend our budget over at the end of summer, and we have a 45-day budget revision requirement, and that's usually if things aren't if things haven't materially changed since the May revise and budget adoption. The county won't necessarily formally require me to bring it back to you, but just to ensure that I'm doing those as normal housekeeping. So we have the 45-day budget revision requirement, but that doesn't necessarily mean it needs board approval again. All right, just to get started, this is just, the next couple of pages is just what our budget goes through. We have 3 types of approval we can obtain from the county office: approved budget, conditionally approved budget, or disapproved. So of course, we're anticipating an approved budget as we move forward, and they'll have, I stay in communication with them. They've already actually looked at my notes, I've got calculations and things like that. So barring a significant event or something that comes out of our control, we would be anticipating an approved budget. And just on the ed code, I won't read the ed code on the budget approval process, but that's for your reference. And the budget oversight by our county office. And just to remind folks who may not know, who may be listening, is why do we do what we do with the budget? Why do we talk about a 3-year budget cycle? At the state, actually, doesn't have to do a 3-year budget. They do a single-year budget. So it doesn't matter if they would project a negative income balance in year 2 or year 3, they're not held to that same standard. But school districts are held to a standard of a positive income balance in a 3-year budget cycle. We're evaluated on the county for fiscal solvency actually on a 5-year, even though that's not ed code, that's our county oversight. They wouldn't disapprove our budget because of a 4th or 5th year issue, but they would definitely expect that we have those conversations and start talking to districts in anticipation of you might have a problem ahead, in months ahead. Building a budget, we take revenues and expenditures, fund balance, and record reserves. So it's really simple in that sense that there's 3 major components go to the budget. Now, the calculations on some of those individual expenditures or revenue items may take some time to work on, but in a nutshell, we record our projected revenues, we record our projected expenditures, and we record our projected fund balances. Now, what we start with, really the building blocks of our budget, is enrollment. Okay? And that's because enrollment drives ADA. ADA drives our funding, and it drives our funding, it drives our needed staff for the programs, and we project future enrollment ADA to look at both staffing and budget. So we really start with enrollment. And I'm a broken record, I know, with enrollment, but that's because that's the biggest factor we have for our unrestricted dollars is enrollment. We currently, at the end of our attendance month 10, we're at 2,783 students. We have corresponding ADA of just over 2,500. And we are at an attendance rate of about 90%. So we improved a little because we've been running at 88, 89% all year. And that's very similar to almost every district in the state. And Cindy, you talked about the ADA, they're using not a new word in how they're talking about attendance, is that attendance yield. We call it an attendance rate, but it's really what's your yield on attendance and that factor. So when you have typically a 93, we might have a school or two at the 95% in a pre-COVID year, but our district average has been about 93.5. So looking at a 93.5 down to an 88, 89, or 90, that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of absences. Okay. We can't forget, we still strive though for 95. So RBA, of course, is right there just below 95% attendance rate, and Hoffman is just a smidge above LAE at 91.39. Again. So we have to think of it post-COVID. Are we going to stay striving for 95, or is it at 96, 97, and then what can rhyme with that?
We haven't reached 97.
So one of the things kind of back to the budget is, we look at historical data and then we look at data moving forward. So because we have a 3-year requirement and we need to, staff for the 22-23 school year, we need to calculate revenue for the 22-23 school year. We also have to do that for 5 years out. Of course, the budget will include a 3-year, multi-year projection. And we look at trends on where we will be in the 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27 school year. And unless something turns around, we are anticipating by the fiscal year 2026, 27 to be just under 2,300 students. I know you can't see it up there, but you have it in front of you, and there's copies in the audience. Whoever would like our corresponding district ADA on the current and projected enrollment. So we will be funded right now. The Ed Code states right now, we're funded on the greater of current for prior year ADA. So when they revised, they kept in the adding a third component, greater of current prior year, or the average of 3 years. Why that is so important to do a current year fix is that average then carries us forward and hurts us for the next 3 years. So a low attendance rate this year, which most schools are feeling, unless the legislature acts, then that's going to come into work. Unless you're a growth or just a small, have small decline, that low attendance rate this year is going to impact the next 3, where before maybe it just would impact, that next year. So we really have, that's one of the key, pieces of the state budget that would really, I'm keeping my eye on that, and transportation, of course. Excuse me. Okay, if we look at the current year attendance, and like what, people ask, well, what does you've seen this slide before, what does a day bring? A parent would say, well, what does it cost a school district if, my student's absent today? So roughly it's around, depending on what category they're in, let's say they were, in every category with supplemental concentration, and in one of the grade scans where they got grade scan adjustment apportionment, then that one day is around 60 hours, and that's current year numbers. I wanted to also point out what that revenue improvement would do as if we have that relief. So I took a 90%, just kind of, if all things are being equal, our current enrollment times just a flat ADA rate, kind of simple math. And then apply the per ADA revenue that we get on that ADA, and the difference between the 90% attendance rate and the 93.5 is just over $1 million. So for a small district like ours, how important that retention or that fix for the current year attendance rate is. I mean, if you think of that's the magnitude, and this is a conservative number too, it's probably even greater.
This slide really helps illustrate the importance of advocacy around funding our districts, not based on average daily attendance, but on enrollment. And, it just, the idea that depending on how many students show up on a given day throughout the year is the difference between, almost $1.6 million in extra revenue. That's a huge amount of services for our district and our students that is totally up in the air on every year. So this is, thank you, because that helps illustrate.
Because we still have to, based on enrollment, we have to staff on that student. We have to transfer that student. We may feed that student. We buy books and supplies for that student. We have desks and operational costs. And so we're spending the money on the complete student as if they were going to be here at, the 100% of the time. And to say, we don't get to say, well, now we're going to take a fraction of our utility bill or a fraction of mowing the lawn or someone's salary because, you know, we didn't have the customers that day. It's kind of, you know.
It's additionally concerning in that the past couple of years with COVID, we've become much more aware of illness and how it can be transmittable. So we don't want people here if they're sick, students or staff, but that ends up really affecting us in terms of how our funding goes, especially if people test positive, mandatory staying home that goes along with it. It hits our bottom line. If they're here, more people get sick, and it's something that's completely out of our control. And it would be really horrible if at the state level, they don't recognize that they're messing with the rock and hard place here.
I think they understand it. You know, I just think it needs to be a priority.
I understand. Don't.
I think there's a lot of pressures they feel for the you know, each dollar. So. This is just an initial reflection on the governor's may revise, and it's, I highlighted items that really aren't going to be included in my proposed budget, and there's some reasons why. So I won't belabor this too much. I think you're very well versed that we have, you know, the three big taxes have increased in collections, our personal income, sales and corporate tax, of course. The governor's budget doesn't assume growth. There has been this increase in base funding, which has been, I mean, I think that message and advocacy was heard loud and clear. So that's a good thing. We had an increase from the COLA from 5.33 to 6.56. COLA was extended to special ed and travel, nutrition, and mandate block grant. The 3-year rolling average is maintained in the budget. The one-time discretionary of $1,500 per APA, I did not budget that in the proposed budget, and there's some reasons why. Is right now we don't know for sure what the restrictions will be on those funds. So even if I budgeted it, I would have set it aside in reserves because we don't know what we can do with it yet. So at that point, that would be part of a revised budget. And then we, or do we budget it and say, well, it might go to salaries or it might go to this. So until we know what the restrictions are on those funds, we will post those when the budget opens, probably September. But I don't think, one thing that I don't think will change regardless of whose bill is passed with that, what restrictions were faced, is the fact that the board will have to evaluate and do some type of plan. Okay. So with discretionary funds before, it was just here's your money, have at it, it goes to the greater good. What I'm reading and what I'm hearing at the county level is that there will be some type of board discussion that goes along with how we can use that money. Doesn't mean we can't, right now, if it stays discretionary, can't use it for anything we want or just increase the bottom line. But at some point, I'd hate to have us have that board discussion now without, when it could change.
You said that was $1,500 for ABA, so somewhere around $4 million for the district.
If it stays how it's supposed to stay. So, yes, I'll bring it up. Okay, and universal meals to all students remains in the budget, and we're already planning for that. We are CEP district now anyway, and that's community eligibility provision. And what that means also is that we're, regardless of the state adopting universal meals under the National School Lunch Program through the USDA, we would qualify for a CEP status. That's good and bad. That means that we are funded at a higher rate per meal, but that also means that our communities have a greater need. And there's a 40% cutoff that, you can group two schools together. Hoffman was the only one that was just 38%. You can team up schools and they don't quite eat that. That means 40% or more of our students have some type of aid, such as food stamps. So that they're free regardless, direct cert type students. And so they're not necessarily being an application driven, they would be ones that would be a direct cert, they call that. That's a high number for a district like ours, where I think we give that people have the perception that we're a wealthy district, that we're all upper middle class, and not everyone has a lakefront home up here. So that there's that perception that people have, I think, of our mountain. And it is a wonderful place to be, that we do have that need, and we might just not, it might just not show as much as it does in some other communities. So that's one thing that I think may lead into another conversation outside of my realm on services to students with that. But everyone will eat regardless of income level. Everyone will get a breakfast and a lunch. Anyone who wants a breakfast or a lunch must be allowed to eat a breakfast or a lunch, no matter what. Okay. There's increases in funding to various categorical programs. There's a one-time Prop 98 funds for deferred maintenance, and if that is included in the state's enacted budget, the minimum we'll get is $100,000 because there's a minimum, but that is not budgeted. We'll budget that once we see the rules, whether that's going to be a Fund 1 deposit if the state's going to utilize Fund 14 with deferred maintenance fund. So we'll see about that. Okay, and then of course the LCFF was calculated on a 3-year rolling average with no revision to the current year. We don't know what that's going to be yet. Okay, this is just a historical look at our COLA. I won't belabor that. The next couple of pages is more for, we talked about it before. I'm really defining COLA and what is COLA, because it's a federal derived number just based on the increased cost of goods and services. And it's not the California number. So we can have, and of course, inflation, cost of living is definitely higher in California than it is in many other states. So we may have inflation of 15% in California, and we may have the cost of living increase to our pocketbook of 7, 8, 9%. On some services, but that COLA that we get is really a national number. And sometimes it's like, well, but it's costing me 20% more. It's costing us sometimes 35% more to buy our food in the cafeteria. And when we get our delivery, half of it's there. So I mean, there's it's frustrating. And there's
COLA doesn't apply to everything, right? Like
No.
transportation.
No, transportation funding has been set at the same dollar amount since 2012. There we go. And it's been a lot more expensive, each year to run our buses since 2012.
I think is the bottom line, that fair to say that whatever cost of living adjustment district gets does not cover the actual increased cost to the district.
Correct. Very well said, thank you. There's a sample of how a cost of living increase also hits, isn't a dollar for dollar increase when you look at, when you add in the factor of declining enrollment. So you have a cost of living increase, and then you have a declining enrollment on top of that. Then if you really look at, well, what's your actual increase in LCFF funding, that's not necessarily 6.56%. And what I did on the next slide, it's hard to see up there, but I did the projected LCFF for 2022-23, and the dollar amount. I usually just have the dollar amount on the slide up there for you, but the dollar amount, the change over the prior year in LCFF is just 1.7 million. So if that percent change is 5.163. That's over 1% lower than 6.56. So what we've realized is not a 6.56 COLA. And I think that's a really tough messaging, when especially, I had a conversation, last week that it's like, okay, I'm going to be standing up here talking about the budget and kind of, seem like an idiot sometimes, where I'm going to be saying, the news is saying look how much money California has, and I'm going to be saying, oh, it's not that great. So, I mean, I can see where people don't understand. So trying to say, okay, well, how can we get our message across that, so some of this, even an added amount to base, plus a 3-year average, plus an increased COLA, is still not that much more money. Hate to be that way, but I just. And then moving forward, 23, 24, 24, 25, because of the enrollment decline, we're actually getting less money overall. So, and our expenses stay the same or increase.
We have additional mandates put on us with less money, so we might get initial one-time money, but we have an ongoing program that we have to fund.
So just moving forward, a couple more slides. There's components of our where our LCFF and the base grant is made up of, with the supplemental concentration and the add-ons. Right now, the TK, we think there might be some adjustments we need to make, and maybe a revision to our attendance report that's gets submitted to the state, because now I need to calculate our TK add-on that we're going to get, so it's roughly $2,800 per student. And I'm looking at the number that just automatically pops out for me. I'm like, $40,000. That's not a lot of money for the ratio that's going to a 2-to-1 ratio. So where did that, I kind of, how did they come up with that number? Well, it's purely on the TK ADA. And when I looked into the attendance and error in our student information, I saw that our TK ADA is running about 50%. Now, I think that number might be wrong. And so what Scott White, my office, is going to do is he's going to go through every TK student individually. What happens before they're 5, they're coded with a certain code, because we don't get ADA anyway for them. And then once they turn 5, the site secretary or the attendance accountant changes that code in the system to know this student turned 5, now start collecting money for that student. And so when I looked back, we don't have very many, so I only had to look at the needs students, so it wasn't like all day. It's like, we really had about 5 or 6 that we didn't collect ADA for the whole year. So that would be 50% on a few students. And what was their attendance rate for the rest? So I'm having Scott look at every single student to make sure that code was changed timely. And if we find it was, great, our money is what it is. And we can maybe look at the attendance rate for that population. But if the code maybe is a month later, or then we can do some work with the sites, if that even is the reason behind it on it's got to be that day, because every day does count. So so right now, we figure the most funding we would get is on 28 students to start implementing the program. So that's I view it as a good thing for kids, but another mandate that's probably going to improve on our budget. Lots of good news today. Just some I won't belabor this page. It's just what makes up our multi-year projections. We have, of course, LCFF revenue, health and welfare increases for certificated and retirees. We have step and fallen increases. We have changes in federal and state revenue. We have savings from prior year negotiated items, increase in certain PERS costs. We've postponed some layoffs that are temporarily funded with ESSER. They will become layoffs once ESSER money runs out. We substantially increased our budgets for natural gas, electricity, fuel, due to escalating costs. And then we increased certain certificated and classified positions back to the general fund from the temporary ESSER funds from 21-22. And the graph you can look at your leisure on the changes in the service contribution rates. Okay. This is a slide I stole from school services, and it's just, I think it's a good picture on how that not only do we have an enrollment decline problem we have, which correlates to an ADA, but then we have that attendance rate decline problem. So it's a double-edged sword due to COVID. This is a summary of our multi-year projections. What I did is I did print out the summary sheet for you for the 5 years. And it's there for you to look at. You can look at it tonight, over the weekend, next week, call me with any questions, but that is a draft. That's a draft currently. I don't anticipate any changes to the future years, except I am just getting ready for today. You know, I did find some things I need to change in the proposed budget, like, oh, I needed to tweak that, I didn't tweak that completely, and so on. So you can look at that multi-year projection for 5 years. So I'm not making you sit that's hot grid for too much longer, and it's hard to see anyway. If you move forward, the highlight of these next couple pages is that we're positive ending fund balance for the current year, 2 subsequent years, and right now, the 5 years. So right now, I think this is the first time in a long time that we've had a 5-year positive ending fund balance. So, and that's largely due to increased per student of that 3-year. I mean, that 3-year average component to fund LCFF it really benefited our district. We just need that next level of benefit of the 80%. And if you're curious on the amount of expenditures per category, okay. The next several pages, I won't go page by page, but they are a snapshot of like as of today, so as of 6/9, so we still have June to go, we still have books to close, but of our various ESSER funds. So I know there's been some questions on, well, how much ESSER funds do we have left? What's the status of those? So I wrote, because ESSER and other COVID dollars came in multiple pots of money, from $50,000 to $6 million, you know. So you can look through that, so you can say, okay, of the ESSER 3, let's just say, no, we have not spent all of ESSER 3 money, and we may budget it this year, but we are going to then take the unspent dollars and carry them over, and they're part of the 22-23 budget. What we don't spend in 22-23, we will carry over to 23-24 and fully expense them by September 2024, because that's when we don't get any money back. I will go slow through all of those ones. Okay. We have also, I listed for you the planned but unexpended categories for the ESSER funds. The committee updates, we have 3 active committees from my desk: the Budget Committee, Strategic Planning Advisory Committee, and the Citizens Oversight Committee. The Budget Committee last meeting was May 17th, and the next meeting scheduled for September 22nd. Our 7-11 Committee, SPAC, the last meeting was March 29th, and the next meeting is scheduled on the 21st. Attendance boundaries and school capacity is the main focus. So we will look at how our enrollment came out in August and September. And we do have, most of our schools have excess capacity where we have DOE who's busing at seams. So, is there some relief that, possibly by changing the boundaries, and our first step is to have this committee review that and vet that. And then we start working with the board, there's public hearings and so on before it, even gets to a board vote. Our Citizens Oversight Committee We'll have one to two more meetings depending, by the time we close the books, we'll have fully exhausted Fund 21. So, and we will have, I recommend the chair out in our chair of our committee, out dining out, about a couple months ago. So we both looked at each other and be like, we need to meet. Yep. So, and that was where it's kind of, in the summer, there's not really a rush for that. Okay, and then just next steps and any questions?
We're still deficit spending.
Yes, so I would say a big takeaway and what I think our focus needs to be is we have not, except for years when we've gotten one-time money, or 2 years, like when we got 2 years of COLA in 1 year. We are still in that pattern of spending more than we're bringing in by over $1 million in some years, post years.
1.6.
Yeah. So, when does a district like ours get out of that when most of the costs are out of our control, barring something, like looking at programs or school capacity, and that nature.
So you say that we're deficit spending by about $1.6 million?
In 22, if you look on the sheet, it's in your packet, and you look at the 22, 23 proposed budget, you can see we're deficit spending.
What you want to do though is you want to look at the unrestricted side. So for 22, 23, it's really not that bad. I mean, it's still deficit spending by 331,000. But you can see how it grows.
Yeah.
23, 24 to just under 8.
Yeah.
24, 25, 1.5.
Right.
And 25, 26, just over 1. So, and then 26, 27, 1.5 again. So our high ending balance right now is enabling us to keep that.
Right, that's the whole point, is that we're getting relief to bring down that deficit spending, but we're still high deficit spending.
Again, I go back to the ADA funding slide, look at the difference in ADA, it's almost $1.6 million in funding. Wouldn't that be amazing if we weren't totally dependent on, well, which could show up which day, and let's put $1 on that seat, every day of the school year. It really would solve a lot of problems if we were funded based on enrollment.
Any other questions for Jenny? Thank you, Jenny.
Okay.
11.0 public hearings, 11.1 procedures for public hearings. Public hearings are required on specific items such as LCAP and the budget. Once the board president opens the public hearing, written comments will be read aloud and the subject to the board's usual time limits for public comments. When public input has concluded, the board president will close the public hearing. 11.2, educational services, approval to open and conduct a public hearing to allow for public input on the local control accountability plan, LCAP. Educational code sections 42127 and 52062 require governing boards of school districts to conduct a public hearing to solicit the recommendations and comments of members of the public regarding the specific actions and expenditures proposed to be included in the LCAP. In addition, the LCAP public hearing must occur at the same meeting as the budget hearing. The governing board must then hold a second public meeting held after, but not on the same day as the public hearing to actually adopt the LCAP. This meeting must also be the same meeting as the budget adoption. District goals: number 1, student learning; number 6, budget, infrastructure, and resources. Fiscal impact: none. The public hearing will be opened at 7:00 p.m. There are no written comments to read aloud. The public hearing will close at 7:00 p.m. 11.3, approval to open and conduct a public hearing to discuss the 2022-2023 proposed budget. Jim Haviland, Chief Business Official. Education Code Section 42127, subsection A1 requires a public hearing on the budget to be adopted for the subsequent fiscal year be held on or before July 1st of each year. Education Code Section 52062, subsection B2 requires that the school district governing board adopts its budget, and the meeting must be held after, but not on the same day, as a public meeting at which the governing board holds the required public hearing on the proposed budget. District goals number 6, budget infrastructure and resources, fiscal impact to be determined. The public hearing is opened at 7:01 with no written comments. The public hearing is closed at 7:01. 12.0 action calendar. 12.1 personnel services, approval of the personnel page, fiscal impact to be determined, various accounts. Can I get a motion? So moved. Cindy is first.
Second.
Bill is second. Any discussion? Calling for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.2 personnel services, approval of the independent study teacher job description, independent. Fiscal impact, none. Make a motion. So moved. Cindy? Second. Dan for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.3 personnel services, approval of the memorandum of understanding between Penn Teachers Association, RTA, and the Rural Unified School District regarding the teacher workday for Mountain High School teachers. So the fiscal impact, none. So moved. Cindy, then Bill. Any discussion?
Yes. Mr. Nygren, I would love for you to explain the new student schedule and what each day will be for the teachers and for the students, because I think it's pretty brilliant. So if you could just come up here to explain it and why this will impact student achievement.
So we're going on a minimum day schedule next year, getting out at 12:40 every day. And basically during the day when we had a full day, teachers didn't have a common prep time, so they all had prep different periods. And when you get time to have to need to be after school. So we're trying to accomplish a lot of goals next year. We're trying to do variable credits. We've got a WASP report to write. We've got a WASP report to make full self-study for our 6-year accreditation. So basically each day we have a different task. So the teachers work a solid day from 7:10 to 12:40. They don't have a break in their periods. They have a 30-minute lunch. But then from 12:40 to 2:15, they have common prep time where they can work. So Monday will be their individual prep. Tuesday, they will be doing intake meetings with students. They haven't been involved before, so the intake meeting takes place with parent, counselor, myself. Now will be the teacher. We get to hear the student's story, what they're trying to overcome, what their goals are. It's much more meaningful than what we've just been doing with administrative and counselor. So that's going to be Tuesday. Also tutorials, because some students won't be able to go home because we don't provide transportation. So students cannot find their way home. They're going to stay after school. Security will be with them. We'll have a study hall. We'll have some outside PE time. But Monday will be the individual teacher prep. Tuesday will be intakes and tutorials. Wednesday will be the PLC format that every school is going to discuss, improving achievement and what we can do for our students. Thursdays will also be tutorial and intakes, and every Friday is going to be our WASP writing report. So we've got to come up with a 100-page report on our whole school. So we're trying to implement some things. The minimum day for students allows them to possibly take courses over here, see courses in the afternoon, which would be awesome. Always subject on availability, depending on, who's got to be able to fill their schedule first. It also allows them to work jobs where I can give them credit for work experience, so they can actually get credit for working, which is super cool. And it's great all around. So basically, we did an MOU for 1 year. We're gonna evaluate it at the end of next year, and see what it looks like, see if it's worth continuing. But the main thing it does is get us more involved with our students. One other thing we're trying to accomplish is doing variable credits, where they can work within the grade period and earn even more credits by doing various projects for the subject. Teachers are gonna have 2 work days this summer where they work on establishing that system, so they're actually gonna come early, work with myself and the consultant and get those things going. So that's all I can think of for now. I think is that it pretty much?
That's good. And during the school, they have homeroom.
Yes.
And during homeroom, they do really cool stuff, including possibly financial literacy.
Yes. So the homeroom is also a concept that we started this year. They do financial 1 day, do guidance 1 day, where they're looking for credits what they have to do. We do team building on Friday, and if you were at the graduation, you heard our speaker mention she loved Friday team building activities. We do competitions between the team, the rooms, classes. So we do financial literacy. We got a program for that we're excited about. So
And find your grind.
and Find Your Grind, which is a career searching type of thing for the students, as well as virtual job shadows. So that's one of the giveaways. So we're implementing new things. Most continuation schools are on that type of schedule for that reason. And so we're excited about it. And trying to see how it goes.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.4, Personnel Services, approval of the joint sunshine agreement between Rim Rural Unified School District and Rim Teachers Association, RTA, for the 2022-2023 school year. Fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Cindy?
Seconded.
Anna? Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.5, Business Services, approval to review and discuss the 2022-2023 fund balances above the minimum reserve requirement. Education Code Section 42127, subsection A to B, requires that districts provide the following public review and discussion at its budget's public inspection and hearing. District Goal 6, budget, infrastructure, and resources, fiscal impact to be determined. Can I get a motion?
So
Jordan?
Second.
Bill? Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.6, Business Services, approval of the Education Protection Account Resolution number 21/22-20. Pursuant to Article 13, Section 36 in the California Constitution, school districts, County Office of Education, and community college districts, LEAs, are required to post an accounting of funds received from the Education Protection Account, EPA, District Goals number 6, budget, infrastructure, and resources, fiscal impact, $1,917,758 LCF, a component of our total LCFF dollars.
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Second is Bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.7, Business Services, approval of resolution number 21/22-21, designating certain general funds as committed fund balances. Business Services, the local reserve cap is a function of Proposition 2, 2014, and the statute related to state provisions 98 reserves. Most viable option under the statute is to reclassify any unassigned or assigned components of the fund balance to the committed or restricted category of the fund balance. This option should be governed consistent with Governance Code Section 54, District Goal 6, budget, infrastructure, and resources, fiscal impact to be determined, general fund.
So
No.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion?
Jenny, can you just walk us through that real quick?
Okay, so I do have a FICMAT news blast. If I can make copies, I brought it in case you wanted some stimulating reading. But part of the SB 54 and part of how what test we are in Prop 98 funding, the reserve cap, which has been since 2014. This is the first year it's been enacted, and it was really considered. If I can quote CSBA or John Gray or School Services when they're at a conference at legislation. So what it does when the state's general fund and Prop 98 is funded at a certain level, and then the layman's term, then it triggers that districts have to have a cap on their reserves. So instead of adopting what may be best for your own district or a district that has a lot of revenue fluctuations, or maybe just being fiscally prudent for a possible recession, that we're capped on what we can have in our reserves in the assigned and unallocated portion of those total dollars. So what a suggestion to do is to formally commit these funds. So it's an accounting function on my part, nothing more. Most of these funds that I've listed in the resolution have already been assigned and kept separate from each other and reassigned also, which is the insurance proceeds from Grandview. Our prior Fund 14 sweep, what we set aside for bond, help offset our nursing costs. So what I've added to that is amounts calculated conservatively to tackle the impact of declining enrollment and fiscal solvency. The third school handshake that we still have 3 more years to pay and we'll be done. And then the rising costs of CSRS and PERS. So those are all allowable items that we can commit, which then doesn't get included in the calculation for your cap. So one of the things you can do is you can also, let's say the one-time money does materialize, and Jordan, I think of you because of that CSBA, with setting money in a special fund for other post-employment benefits after retirement. You know, that would be something that we would lay out here until we deposit those funds. So you were on my mind when I was doing this resolution.
That would be exciting.
So I didn't sit through that presentation, but I know you did. So that's things like that where we could foresee if we were going to start putting general fund money for a roofing project or something like that. I knew that would get Jim. Yay. Or if we had planned asphalt work, or if we were thinking about contributing to a deferred maintenance fund, but not transferring that money to the fund. We can, that's an option too. Instead of committing funds within Fund 1, we can transfer to some of these other funds like Fund 14, Fund 40 for capital improvements. But then it's really the flexibility to uncommit this is an agenda item. So once you transfer the funds, it's a little, then we're spending it out of Fund 40, we're spending it out of Fund 14. So right now, until we have maybe some more thoughtfulness to it, or know what the state enacted budget is, what we're kind of best fits and what we do is legally reasonable to do so for a district like ours.
And our balance, isn't that about, our reserve is about 13%, so we're going to get down to 10. Is
We have
that
to
what
get
it is?
down under 10, yes.
And did I misunderstand, did you mention the deficit mitigation?
Yes. And so there's two items we had today. The discussion on the reserve balance is only the non-committed ones. Yeah, the non-committed portion of the ending fund balance. This is designating things into the committed side of the fund balance, which is not what we just talked about in the prior agenda.
Thank you so much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 13.0, consent calendar. Items to be pulled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration during agenda item 14.0. Would anyone like to pull any items? 13.1, 13.2, 13.3, 13.4, 13.5, 13.6, 13.7, 13.8, 13.9, 13.10, 13.11, 13.12, 13.13. Make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Cindy and then Bill, any discussion?
I was excited to see Kelvin.
Yes. I was also excited to see digital versions of our textbooks. So it looks like we're moving in that direction, and a lot easier to carry around.
Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items move unanimously. 14.0, there were none. 15.0, governance team. Future agenda items planning. 15.1, this is the time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. Any recommendations?
I have one. With our virtual academy having a discussion about the possibility of having students who participate, secondary high school students participating in virtual, be able to also participate in CIF sports teams, be able to have the opportunity to try out for them in sports and participate. I understand this could be possible, but not at this point, the way the program is set up, and it would take some discussion in the district to be able to allow that to happen.
Recommendations on how we would put that in a discussion with the board. Okay.
It is possible to do that. We have to work with CIF, but first we want board direction. And perhaps you'd like a brief presentation of maybe the pros and cons, or if you would rather have the pros and cons and an update of what the pros would be and the cons.
I would just want to make sure that we have that dialogue, we all have that discussion, so I don't care which one now. Well, if you want dialogue, we need to have it on the agenda as in a future agenda item, and then if we need to agendize an item for later, as we do.
So if we can include a presentation at some, when it's appropriate, a presentation on that.
I'd be happy to. I think the process would probably be a discussion and then direction from the board. There would probably need to be board policy change as well as a petition to CIF, but it is possible.
And I would appreciate that be a really fun presentation.
Yeah, so if you could just start us down that path, we appreciate it.
Do you have direction for me as to what you would like now?
I would appreciate it sooner rather than later. If there is the possibility of being able to do it not sooner, then I want to be able to follow with that.
What's a realistic timeline for you to complete a presentation?
I'm not going to the board calendar well. I don't want them to get it done for the next the June agenda. That would be.
No, not June.
I can do it for July. It's not-
July would be wonderful. We're talking July.
No.
So August.
That's definitely.
There you go. So
Or possibly added to the retreat?
no, we're not putting any more on the retreat. Let's have it on in August, because I really want to be able to focus that entire day on strategic planning, on math, on really drilling down on that. I just think that we also have to collaborate on superintendent goals. There's so much to do. I would rather be able to dedicate that time in August for a report.
How much time do you figure it would take to be able to have a report and discussion?
I can do the report in probably 10 to 15 minutes. The discussion is up to you.
If we were to have the board, if we were to wait until August to do it, would it matter in terms of next school year? In terms of if we were to do it in July versus August, or is that immaterial?
I don't realistically see us being able to have a discussion in August and have that up and is that the fall will start.
Well, I think what she's asking is if we were to force it to be done in July, would that help us for the next school year, make it a possibility, or is it already too late to be a possibility for next school year anyways?
I think it would be real, and trying to be realistic. I think it would be unrealistic to assume that we could have that done for fall athletic season. It may be more realistic to have it done for a winter or a spring season and phase that in. But for me to say that I have it done for football season, I don't really get the process.
So I would like to move it to August.
Well, wait a second, I don't think I got clarity in terms of does it make any difference if you do it in July or August as far as being able to have it implemented sooner?
I don't believe so.
So if you're good to have that prepared in August for us, we
I
appreciate
can
it.
make anything happen, I just have to
Prioritize, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have other priorities
It's
that come first.
It's just for my clarity, it doesn't make any difference in terms of results for students, whether we do it in July or August. So if that doesn't make any difference, then why force?
Would it be helpful to front load information through weekend updates?
If you know stuff off the top of your head about it, and it doesn't require a great deal of research, throw it into our Friday update, so that way we have some knowledge of it. Yeah,
Since I turned mine in for tomorrow already, how about next week?
that's fine.
Is that something the athletic director could assist with?
He is done here, he's a regular teacher.
For other agenda items, we already set the July retreat agenda.
Yes,
Thank you.
it was when you were out. 16.0, future meeting dates. Regular board meeting, June 23rd, 2022 at 4:00 p.m. in Rural High School Library. Board retreat, July 21st, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the World School District Office. 7.0, recess to closed session if necessary. I do not believe it is necessary. 18.0, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:22.
Second? I'll second that. So Cindy and Deanna, any discussion? Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?